we put ourselves out there. We ask the tough or silly questions or share a story that just seems ridiculous. But what that does is it gets them, like you said, smiling, laughing. They can relate to it. And once you get that, people start opening up. They start relaxing, their minds relax, and then the really great ideas come out.
Welcome, everybody, to Equality Podcast Season 2. We are excited today to have as our guest Adam Lawrence. Adam Lawrence is the managing partner for Process Improvement Partners LLC. Adam has over 30 years in industry and has been consulting for over 3 years now, and is the author of The Wheel of Sustainability, a great book about how you can use Kaizen to make your business better and sustain the results. Adam,
how are you doing today?
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you all today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Good deal. So why don't we start out a little bit about you? Tell me about your background, experience, what you're doing now, what's cool, all of that good stuff.
All right. Well, appreciate that question. So as you said earlier, have an industrial engineering degree from Virginia Tech. So let's hear for Virginia Tech for beating UNC yesterday, just to mess with the timing. It was a house divided. My wife is a UNC fan. Look, I've already upset your co-host. So that's awesome. Started straight out in industry in North Carolina with a furniture company and moved all around the country doing various engineering operations and then continuous improvement work.
And did BT BT is a real engineering school, right? So I'm looking for University of the State of Michigan, Purdue, Virginia Tech,
University of Phoenix.
No.
Listen, you're going to ask me now, what's a Hokie, right? Is that part of it?
That's always coming.
Yeah, that's right. So the answer is nobody knows. Actually, we do know, but it's just not even that interesting. It was just a rhyming word. So we like to think we were an engineering school. I mean, really known for a lot of different things. But when I went, it was a pretty broad type, diverse university, lots of opportunity, but did get me my first job. So that helped a lot. And then moved around in industry for quite a number of years. Like I said, last 6 years, I was the lean champion for a technology group that was global. And then 3.5 years, I went out on my own to help organizations around the world. And my main focus is trying to create sustainable solutions, mainly through Kaizen events, engaging and empowering folks through efforts to solve some really complex business problems.
Well, we decided, since we're recording today in person and not via Zoom, that we would have a physical signal when the next guy wanted to talk. So I have a question for you, and that is, how do you make that engaging, fun, and sustainable? And sustainable.
I'm not really sure I can compete with the activity on the other side of the screen, but yeah. So normally we try not to beat up our team members. So I get that. But right. So what I've learned in any activity is everybody wants to be a part of the solution. They want their voice to be heard. So what I try to do is I facilitate events. We're bringing in ways of thinking and so on, but we're also trying to get people to be creative, feel comfortable, feel safe about sharing their ideas, do a lot of drawing, storytelling, giving people some creative ways to express who they are, get to know each other, kind of have some fun, do a lot of icebreaker stuff. 2 truths and a lie is kind of fun. You find out about people. People find out about each other, the things they never knew. One key member on one team told everybody that he had been in jail, and they thought it was a lie, and it was not, and they were all shocked. So it was kind of cool. It kept things going the rest of the week. But in the end, when they've solved the problem, they not only have they solved the problem in a sustainable way, but they got to know each other better, and they learned how to work as a team. So I always find that to be fun. People get more done when they're having fun. I truly believe that.
Yeah. See, I love that because, well, a little bit about my background. I got my undergraduate from Pensacola Christian College and was working in third-party logistics. We handled 100% of the forward logistics for T-Mobile in North America. So it was a, super fast-paced, high volume warehouse where we're shipping out mostly cell phones.
Right.
And I had a boss who knew that I had a background in logistics with Walmart at a regional DC, knew that, I was kind of sharp and believed in me. And he put me in charge of a department. And for the people that are listening on audio, I'm sorry, you're missing a lot this week. But I turned the department around from losing 30 grand a month to making about 10 grand profitable. And he surprised me with a bonus. And it was, an IQ 400 play because he gave me less than I would have asked for myself. But because he went first mover advantage, I had to say yes. I couldn't be ungrateful, right? So really super sharp guy. And he's the one that said, you have a college degree, but you need your MBA. You need to go back to school. So went to the University of Louisville, got my master's in business, eventually went to MIT and took some classes in supply chain management, lots of engineering stuff. But sort of after that experience, I moved on to a third-party logistics company as a senior continuous improvement manager. And what I found out, and I've been finding out ever since, right, is that the main barrier to lean implementation and continuous improvement is the psychology component, right? It's not the concepts are so simple, everybody can grasp them. I've done complex math and rarely used it at work because the problems aren't that complicated, But the very simple solutions, everybody understands them, but can the people work together to accomplish them, right? So I like that you brought that up because that's been, now it's been 10 years of experience where that's what it is. The major part of what I do is helping people to work together and kind of pull on the same rope in the same direction.
Yeah, people have to feel comfortable and safe sharing their thoughts. I've done this all over the world, and I always was told, certain cultures, they're not going to speak up because they're not the highest level in the room. They're not allowed to have an opinion, or they won't say their idea because if it's not fully formed, they're uncomfortable. You know what? If you just ask people what they're thinking, right? Just let them tell their story. Everybody's got a story to share. If you can just get them telling their story, then it starts moving forward, and you don't have those cultural or these preconceived notions around what's okay to share and what's not okay to share. We're all there to try to improve a situation. And if you set up your team properly, right? So these are people that want to solve the problem because it affects them directly. So they have skin in the game, right? So the idea is I want my life to be easier to accomplish. I want my work to be easier to accomplish. So get those folks involved, listen to them, give them the opportunity to try it. If it didn't work, what did we learn? How do we improve it? We'll never run out of ideas before we run out of time. So, if you facilitate well, we're implementing the highest value stuff first, and the 127th idea may not get used. Okay, that's fine. But at least you got the first 20 or 30 and you found out and you gave it a try and you all helped each other. And people are just pretty amazing because they typically rise and beat the challenge anyway.
Yeah, I've found in past Kaizens that just validating the other person's perspective, even if you don't take the idea at all, or quite frankly, even if the idea is stupid, people are talking because they want to be heard, and validating that opinion is a critical piece. That's what's led me to the very much unfully formed idea of being the funniest lean guy on LinkedIn. Is generally if I get you to laugh or smile once first, you're already bought into wherever the conversation goes. Right. You can't not relate to the guy that's got you cracking up.
Right. And you think about it as we facilitate teams, right? So we've had all that experience and they've not, for the most part, right? The people I tend to work with, it's going to be their first or second experience. It's not going to be their 300th experience. So we put ourselves out there. We ask the tough or silly questions or share a story that just seems ridiculous. But what that does is it gets them, like you said, smiling, laughing. They can relate to it. You ask somebody what the color of their first car was, and automatically they're thinking back to typically a positive experience, right? Your first car. Some cultures I've had to ask first bicycle, right? Because not everybody had cars, but usually there's something about that that sparks a positive memory. And once you get that, people start opening up, they start relaxing, their minds relax, and then the really great ideas come out.
Yeah, and even the ability to just share problems, right? I was working at a large distribution facility. It was consumer goods, and it was for one specific manufacturer. And from that warehouse, we would distribute out to other businesses, Walmart, Target, so on and so forth. And so it had a few different channels, an e-com, less than truckload, full truckload type of setup. Yeah. And there was a small group of employees that did a pick, pack, and ship for less than pallets. So a lot of these companies are just ordering a whole pallet of fill in the blank, right? Well, these guys really had a tough time with what they were trying to do, what they were trying to accomplish. And there was a culture of grumbling. Nobody cares, right? We're the real soldiers here. Everyone else is, sipping lattes and riding segways around the warehouse, but we're the real workers. And I just walked through the work area with these employees and observed them, asked them some questions, and they all had this attitude, and kind of this, well, why should I tell you? Nobody does anything about it anyway, kind of thing. So as we got near the end of the day, everyone that I passed, I said, hey, we're gonna meet over here, 10 minutes before the end of the shift or whatever. I just want to, hear what everyone has to say in one place. So we did that, and it was like, taking your finger out of the dam or whatever. They all just opened up. It was just, this gushing of stuff they'd been bottling in the whole time. And probably 50% of it, once they got done complaining, right, about half of it, they kind of all agreed, well, I mean, that's kind of why we have a job. If that wasn't a thing, then we might not be getting paid right now. So that's okay. We can live with that. I get it. But the other 50% was a gold mine. We uncovered the fact that the software system was improperly engineered. It was directing them to do things they couldn't physically do. Like, I'm on a ground level fork truck and it wants me to pick from the 5th level. And the workaround was go find somebody with a high reach truck to go get it for you. Wow, like the level of inefficiency there is staggering when it would take 30 seconds of code change for this to be right. So just letting people talk and complain can be a huge lever. And then, you dig down and it's like, well, the reason they didn't want to complain is the last time they did, somebody smacked them for it, right? And so there's this code of omerta going on where it's like, don't speak bad about your job. Well, is it speaking bad, or is it just being honest about the challenges we face? Because that sounds like a leadership issue to me, right?
Right.
Have you seen a lot in your time doing this work, Adam, where people are literally confined by their electronic solution, and that holds them back and creates a whole subset of behaviors in their work environment?
I have many examples of that, but frankly, I tend to be away from the automated side of things. But I will share a quick story very similar to that. So working for a consumer goods company, doing a Kaizen event that's about 3 years ago, and their issue was their Amazon business was exploding, right? So they designed their approach to Amazon when it was early in their relationship. So they had to put a label on every product going through, whereas if they sent to Walmart, one label per pallet, 150 items, right? So there was quite a bit of difference. So, okay, that's fine. So what we found out was they were delivering, let's call it 8 days, and they need to get down to 4 days. or else they would be fined. And it was just over $1 million per year. So it seemed like a pretty high value Kaizen event. Let's get from 8 days to 4 days and eliminate $1.2 million in fines. Okay, great, no problem. So we Gimbal walked the whole process. We found the printer for Amazon all the way in the back corner of the facility. It was the oldest printer, and it was, it was not convenient, and it was the least maintained and all that. Okay, so it's fairly obvious what to do about that. But what we also found out was Amazon orders were being taken manually. So Amazon calls, there was a person at corporate between 9 and 6 p.m. And if an Amazon order came in at that point, she could manipulate it and do whatever. But if it came after 6 p.m., it would just wait till the next day. Okay, so we could wait 14 hours. But even worse, if it was on Friday, 72 hours or whatever the number is. I don't get into the high math. But anyway, okay. So you're sitting there as the facilitator, and you're kind of wondering, that just doesn't seem right. What are you doing for Walmart? Well, we have that automated in our system. Well, what do you have to do to automate Amazon? And one of the team members was from their corporate IT, and she said, well, I just fixed that. Oh, so there it is. I mean, like you say, just the most obvious of answers. Why would you? But nobody had worked together.
Yeah.
They'd just been paying money, and things were in their way. Now, that wasn't the only thing they solved that week, but it was a big one because it took up to 2.5 days out of the process. And basically now, since the DC, the distribution center, worked 24 hours a day, if an Amazon order came in at any time, it could be dealt with versus waiting until the next day. So that made no sense.
That story strikes so home for me because it's so specific to one of my first very successful Kaizens, where this company does furniture and they sell through just Amazon. That's their only channel. And the problem was volume had outscaled their processes in the very same vein as what you just described.
Right.
After thoroughly walking the facility and reviewing the process and asking all these open-ended questions, like the root of the issue was they would have to print 20, 30,000 labels a day from a machine that prints one label every 5 seconds. So it would have to run 24/7 just to print the physical amount of labels that needed to be applied. And so then we went through, how could we engineer a set of roller racks where we could push the stuff down and have multiple machines and print all the labels out, and went through several iterations of discussing in like a 4-day burst before we found out that machine just had an option. And that machine could go up to 20 labels a second. We've been spending most our lives living in an orange paradise. And those simple wins are like some of the most fascinating in my career.
Yeah. So what was kind of neat. So, I focus on the sustainability of stuff. So the idea was not just to solve and, correct the automated portion, but what was the system that would tell them if we're on track, right? So we created a bunch of visuals, we created some nice standard work, we created ownership, right? So nobody owned anything. So, you guys were talking about it earlier, personalizing, getting people to really feel like they're part of it rather than being told what to do or thrust upon. So the whole system that we developed using, I call it the wheel of sustainability, but it was just these components of sustainability that I have the team test their solution around to make sure we're not missing something, so that at 2 a.m., somebody that wasn't on the team is still doing it the right way because they realize it's better for them to do it the right way rather than, well, I'm just going to do it the way I used to always do it. Why suffer? If you understand how much better and easier it is, if there's a clear benefit for you and you can see it and it's impossible to do it wrong, why wouldn't you do it the easier way? Unless you don't know, or you just tend to buck the system, but you don't have to do that.
Do you find that a majority, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but do you personally find a majority of where that gap stems from is not understanding how as the individual creates value within the process? Because that's been my observation, is they either don't know precisely what happens before or precisely what happens after they touch it and how that behavior, affects those outcomes.
So, great thought, great question. So one thing I like to try to do with teams is help them feel like business owners, right?
Mm.
So if you don't feel like a business owner, you're typically just in your little box. Here's what I do, keep my head down, do my thing, and I don't really see how it affects or impacts my customer, either the next person down the line or the final purchaser. But we are all consumers and customers, right? So one thing we know, there's some inarguable principles. One is we really won't survive if we're disappointing customers. The other one is around safety, is no one wants to go home hurt. Okay. So when I work with teams, I'm always trying to get them thinking in those principles to say, okay, look, you're doing what's good for you, but look what it's doing for the customer, right? So as you said, what is my role? What is the value that I provide? Well, once we teach them about waste, once we teach them about non-value add, now they can start to say, wait a minute, this really is not helping the customer, and it's really making my life kind of tough. So why don't we figure a way to remove, eliminate, minimize, whatever, because everybody benefits from that. And most of the time when we reduce waste, we're improving safety anyway. So this is good. I can make my life easier, safer, less stressful, less effort, and oh, by the way, the customer benefits. So again, what would be great, and this is what lean transformations try to do, is get everybody to feel that they are part of the solution, part of the value adding process, that they're business owners, what have you. The Kaizen event is a nice way to accelerate that. It's not the only way, right? Because this is truly a leadership process. You can't have a Kaizen event if you don't have leadership to support that, right? And you want the team to have a winning experience. But it's a neat catalyst because people can see that these things are possible. They see that they can be part of the solution. And then the goal and the hope is that people want more of that. Oh, I like what you did over here. Can we work on my area over there?
Yeah.
Look for those cues, look for that opportunity, and get leadership to see it, recognize that it's happening so that they can take advantage of all those positive potential outcomes.
Yeah, there's something to be said for like lean going viral in your building, like in your organization. I've seen it happen a couple of times where, maybe the team was really skeptical. And to be frank, it's usually the leadership team. I hear a lot about frontline employees being jaded and, oh, it's the flavor of the month and all that. And I've experienced that. Yeah, I've experienced that. But what I've also experienced is, if it's a chance to go sit in a conference room and have a cup of coffee and participate in something, man, they're all over it. They might in the back of their mind say, yeah, this is never going to work, but they're not like opposed to it, right? They're tolerant at least. It's management that tends to be more egoistical, honestly, and defensive, right? So we've had situations, I've personally been in situations where I'm under the direction of somebody sort of up here in the organization. They're like, fix my stuff, and then I'm down here and the site leaders are like, well, what's wrong with how we're doing things now? You don't know anything anyway. Oh, MIT, I guess you're special, And so we just have an agreement. Hey, I get it, man. I know exactly where you're coming from. I've managed plants before, and guess what? I have an ego. I know that, and I know you do too. It's okay. Here's what we're going to do. Let's start with this area. And all we're going to do, we're just going to 5S this little, it's your return stock, right? It's nothing. We're just going to 5S that. We're going to have one little Kaizen event. And hey, if you get a return on your investment, great. And if you don't, then we'll just stop. It doesn't work. You're right. Let's make it a test case, right? So then we do it. And 3 days later, every other employee is getting whiplash looking at this area. They're like, this went from a complete dump to that looks like, Apple headquarters or something. That guy gets to work there and he's done before it's time to clock out. How did that happen? Hey, I need you guys to come to my area. You need to do, and then like the lean goes viral. So I love seeing, that happen with organizations and realizing we can engineer our own success. Like we're empowered to actually change the business and to own it. And that's just seeing that it is the best part, right? And just seeing people light up and suddenly understand I'm not just a paid employee that puts on a McDonald's shirt every day and trades time for money. I'm actually part of the value creation process, right?
Absolutely. No, and that's what's so exciting about doing that kind of work. Look at that. Look at that. I don't have a glass.
We were so
I'll
worried.
raise my hand to you.
For you audio listeners, we're drinking whiskey here, but we were so terrified we'd get on and you'd be like some adamant anti-alcohol person, you'd be upset. I'm like, this is a virgin whiskey.
Yeah. It's just brown water.
No worries. Well, I will tell you that nobody ever said hokey. Oh, you're some big shot hokey, because they're like, that ain't nothing. MIT, I get that. Dad actually went to MIT. He was a chemical engineer. So,
I mean, Virginia Tech is well known as a great engineering school. So
we drank a lot of whiskey too.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm from Texas, so my postgraduate studies were in a field, but it was a good one. It was a good one.
There you go. There you go.
So Pancake over here, who always falls flat. But yeah, it honestly, it doesn't matter with the education or certifications or whatever. If you're messing in somebody else's business, they're going to be a little resentful. That's okay. And it just feeds back into this idea that like the most underdeveloped and value add part of lean is the people part. I think Toyota gets that, and that's why you have a bunch of people like sniffing around the edges of TPS and sometimes never able to grasp it because they don't realize that the money doesn't come first. The waste reduction doesn't come first. It's continuous improvement, respect for people. Those are the two things that they value. And how you interface with people, now all of a sudden I can do all these other things.
Well, I do think the Superman culture also struggles, where we expect management to come in with a cape and have all of the answers. Yeah. And then when we connect with somebody like yourself that is a consultant, we're like, all right, well, what kind of capes he got? What answers is he coming with?
Right. What's your superpower?
Generally, we don't have answers. We come in and start asking the probing questions and facilitate the guys that are already there to get those answers.
Well, and it goes back to respect for people, right? So the fact that we don't believe we have the answers, the only thing we have the luxury of is exposure to so many other teams, other solutions, other industries, which is great, because then what we can do is if a team is struggling to come up with an option, we can give them choices, right? I've seen it done this way. I've seen it done that way. I've seen it this way. Does any of this make any sense for you? So, do you want to put up a whiteboard to see your process and how you're doing? Do you want to automate? What do you want to do? But what do you want to do in a way that will help people, right? So it goes back to the point of, here's how we helped people in many different industries and many different situations and scenarios. So those are options. So that usually sparks ideas. So I try to hide. So, I don't have whiskey, I have a Ninja. So that's me, right?
Nice.
So the idea of the Ninja was that they're in the background, right? No one knew they were kind of stealth. So it doesn't usually have a positive connotation, right? But the idea is,
a black belt.
We're just not going to tell, well, I don't even do the belt thing, but it's more about they were able to get in when no one was paying any attention and change things, right? So good facilitation, great facilitation, when it looks like you didn't do a thing.
Yeah.
Right. You absolutely didn't do a thing, but what you're doing is you're guiding from the side. You're helping people feel comfortable again enough that they can try and fail and learn and try and fail and learn. And you're challenging them. Now, sometimes the Ninja had to jump in and take out the hero or whatever, or the villain. Sometimes I've had to do that. So if they're going to try to violate the laws of physics, okay, I got to jump in.
Right.
So normally, I joke with them all the time. I say, okay, we're going to let you're going to implement whatever you want, because we're going to charter it in such a way that you are authorized, whatever your answer is, that's what we're going to do, unless it's illegal, immoral, or violates the laws of physics. In that case, we got to draw the line. Right?
Yeah, I speak a lot about logical incongruence, where like even, so probably of my 6,000 connections on LinkedIn, probably 50% of them or more are in the CI world. And I'll even get posts from them that they're logically incongruent. What they assert versus the data they have do not go together in any meaningful way. And it's a fun point of being human to recognize we have implicit bias and that we have to review exactly what we're saying, and that it does fall within the laws of physics and the reality of this physical world.
right?
Oh, you mean a critical realist epistemology?
Yes.
You guys blurred me out all the logical incongruence, and I don't even know what you said. I wasn't even,
A
are you
critical
sure
real.
that maybe the whiskey came through? No.
No
He
doubt.
said a critical realistic epistemology.
Not critical realistic, critical realist. It's what science is based on, as opposed to a postmodern.
I'm sticking with realistic because realism is a much worse fit.
You know, why do we act in this culture like it's bad to actually read books and know stuff?
Mm-hmm. Or to insinuate physical violence to assert your point.
Speaking of which, it's my turn to talk. So what I love about your presence on LinkedIn, and one of the reasons we reached out to you was your focus on people and the sustainability part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because for better or for worse, that's what pretty much everybody struggles with. Wheel of Sustainability, I'm gonna, confess I haven't read it yet, but it's on my to purchase list. I have this OCD method for ordering and reading books, and I have it programmed out for like 8 months. So I'm gonna get to it. I'm really looking forward to it. But I was hoping you could share with us and the audience, just enough that everyone goes out and buys the book, but not so much that we don't have to buy the book.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. So the first thing I would tell you is never write a book because you think you're going to sell a lot of books. Okay. Absolutely.
We both have books. We definitely do.
And that's cool. And maybe you will. And I think it's awesome. But so everybody's got a story to tell, right? And so what I learned over the many years was my story was how I was helping teams solve problems in a sustainable way. So about 10, 15 years ago, I was tired of helping teams solve problems and the problems would come back. And I said, I got to do better. I got to figure this out because it was driving me crazy, and why put in all the effort? So I came up with a number of components and, trial and error. Eventually I found that there are 9 components. So the image of a wheel is that it's got a hub and 8 spokes. The hub is leadership commitment. And the spokes, I could name them all. You could look at the picture, right? But the idea was that if you put in those components with strong leadership commitment, and you have the team actually put those components in during the project, during the event, during the workshop, you have a really great chance of sustaining your solution, right? So it goes anywhere from, I'll walk you through it really quick. I won't explain them all. Notification, we're speaking to people of the change. Why does it matter? Training and review, we're doing tell, show, and do like TWI, right? We've got visible evidence, meaning that from 20 feet away, I can see if the thing is working or not working. The point is, if it's not working, we go in and help. If it is working, we congratulate. We've given everybody, I call it all tools available, meaning that you have everything you need to get what you're trying to get accomplished done. Then the next one is called clear benefits, meaning that somebody that wasn't there sees it as value to them. What's in it for me? My team hates that step during the Kaizen. Early on, they're forming this new idea. And I make them go out one-to-one and talk to people that aren't on the team and get their opinion. Well, guess what? Most people don't like it the first time they hear it. But that's great because they get unfiltered feedback. And then the other people that weren't on the team, they have their voice heard. The next is layered audits, right? So the person does their work, they audit it, next level audits. Audits have to be 5 minutes or less or people won't do them. And they have to be engaging, meaning we participate. We do not do it from away. And we correct behavior if we see it, that it's not right. But we're having, engaging conversation. And I always have whoever's auditing sign off that you did so everybody can see you were there. The next is accountability. So that means if you had a small child about to put their hand on a stove and they were going to burn their hand, you would stop them. You would hold yourself accountable to keep them safe. This is, if somebody's going off the standard, you can't just walk by. You got to participate. You got to feel like it's important enough, or else why did you do it? And the last is what we've been doing all day: recognition, telling of stories. So when somebody makes an improvement that they're proud of and they're telling that story, we encourage it. And then the ultimate is when somebody tells a story as if they were there, but they hadn't been there. So that's when you were talking about things going viral, right? so people start to see that this is helpful. So I wrote the book during the pandemic because I had a lot of time on my hands. I'm a hands-on guy. I'm an on-site guy. I had a lot of time. I cranked up tunes in the morning. I started typing and I wrote 36 stories of teams that either used it or didn't use it. Things from my home, things from service, things from manufacturing, non-manufacturing. It didn't really matter because there's so many ways to help people. And the central theme is around how to create that image so that leadership can do what they're supposed to do to support all of this so that they get the benefit of the hard work that their people are doing. So that was all over the place, but that's what I wrote.
I have a profound love for two of the things you mentioned within that. The first of which is the visual management piece, both from our earlier conversation and in the middle of there. I think that is like the single most impactful, apologies to all the blind people listening in, but it is the single most vital piece of warehousing, manufacturing, and our varying industries where I can see, touch, feel what my impact is doing right now in real time. And I love that. And then the second bit is regular accountability. As we focus more and more and move into the future, is what we think culture actually means. A lot of people misattribute that to just losing accountability. And I'm like, no, true winners and true winning environments have a high level of regular accountability. Right. I can't tell you all the times my life was better off for John going, you're an idiot, do this instead. And, righting that ship. And there's even part in my book, which has sold 10 million copies in my own brain and nowhere else. That's about stop biting my fingernails, where he said, is it a problem? No. Is it going to hurt you? No. Does it make you look like you're, maybe less of a leader as you stand in a room and unsure about what you're talking about? Kind of, yeah, it kind of does. If I sit here,
right.
So it was a fantastic small point that accountability, both as peers and as leaders, like moves us all forward in a very sustainable way. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. So the goal was to create the image of each of those components, right? Because it's really easy to say accountability. Accountability is fun until it happens to you.
Sure.
So what we're really trying to say is, what does that look like? What does that feel like? How hard could that be? So let's think about this. So I told you the story about closing 8 days down to 4 and saving $1.2 million. So we have a new system, right? So you see somebody not following the system. You make a choice. The choice is to keep walking to your meeting and just avoid them, which basically then says it's okay to do it wrong. Or you take the time and engage with the person, have the conversation, help them understand why doing it that way will be a disbenefit. And now they understand, and now you make a decision on whether their behavior can be resolved in that engaging conversation, or you have somebody that's choosing to do the wrong thing, right? But if you don't have the conversation, you'll never know, and you'll just blame. And all you do is blame, and now you're paying fines again. So is that worth it? My thought is no. So the easiest image from a manufacturing side is, are you willing to watch somebody not lock out a punch press and put their hands in harm's way?
Right.
And if the answer is yes, I don't want to work for you anyway. But if the answer is no, then think about it the same way. So you're letting people put themselves in harm's way. You're going to hold yourself accountable to keep that from happening. Then you should do the same thing for critical work that's to the benefit of the customer. So now that's the image. So it's really hard to argue that, because you put the team together to solve a pretty critical problem. Why would you want it to come back?
Right.
Yeah. But
So
going back to what you said, the visuals, just real quick, the way I think of visuals is they're so well created and simple that it's almost impossible to do something wrong. Therefore, you're making it easy for the person doing the work to do it right? So so again, if they're trying to do the right thing, what you've done is you've reinforced what the right thing is in such a simple way. So you're giving them the whole system to do things right. But humans.
As my friend John Thacker here would put it, you're expanding the mean in which leptokursis occurs.
Dude, put on some fucking deodorant. What's wrong with you? So I like that. I like mobster movies and TV shows. Okay, it's probably a character flaw, but how come everybody that we know is not a gangster? And the answer is it is several orders of magnitude more difficult and more risky to earn a living that way than to just do it the right way, right? In the same way, if we create systems at work where it's easier and you're more successful to do it the right way, why would anybody do it a different way, right? So I always work with leadership to help them make the way they want it done easier than the other way. If it's more difficult, it's not sustainable. Like, you're not going to get there because people are going to do it the easy way, right?
Right.
So Wheel of Sustainability, love it, looking forward to it. I just had a couple of thoughts there that I jotted down. The first is, do you have a favorite element? I know they all work together, but is there one that, you just really love?
So there are two.
All right.
There are two. So, in our community, the answer is always, it depends, right? So I love it because it's the most challenging, but it can be the highest value, which is the leadership commitment. So think of that image of the wheel, the hub, right? So if a spoke goes missing, the wheel is weaker. If the hub goes missing, there is no wheel. Right? The whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
So the work that I do to get leadership prepared to be able to engage their team and support their team and commit to their team is the most challenging, because they've not seen the solution. They have no idea. They just know we're going to give it a try, right? So that's one piece. Then the little, the deviant in me, if that's the proper word, probably not, MIT guy.
It's the proper word.
Clear benefits. Okay, so we're in, let's say it's a 3.5-day Kaizen event. We're in about a day and a quarter. And now I'm going to send them out to talk to people that weren't involved. And my team members do not like that. They're like, what are you doing to us? Now, I know what I'm doing to them. They have to go out and understand what the rest of the population thinks about this. Now, you're not going to get all of them, so we just have one-on-ones, but I've had to break up some really challenging conversations. Now, I'm a little guy. I'm 5'6.25". So I've broken up 6'8" and 6'2", 280, and I'm the little dog, right? Yeah. No, I got you. So, but what does that do? Well, what it does is it really makes you refine and understand what will help people, right? And you're going to get that feedback. Why not get it early? But we've had situations where they found out, oh, we missed something critical. Like, we didn't realize none of us are left-handed, and we've designed it a right-handed solution. And we're like, now, it's hard for me not to say I told you so, right? But the point is, it's good to find that stuff out before it's too late. You're still going to make mistakes, but so favorites for different reasons, right? And I'm a storyteller, so you could argue that I love the recognition side too.
I love the honesty behind real benefits, because as somebody who can admit I'm a selfish human being, primate on this earth, is that we all have a little bit of self-fulfillment out of this process. Even if I'm fixing your problem, I get this sense of like pride and fulfillment that come along with it. Absolutely. And that real benefits are what matter to human being. The only reason I talk to this guy is because there are real benefits.
Right.
I love you.
No, and sometimes we get paid too.
Yeah, even if we get 5 minutes in and he starts talking about like the study of urine or some other epistemology, there's real benefits to being in his life that are mutual and part of what has us coming back every day.
So the other thing that I jotted down, because I've kind of seen this happen and I'd love to hear your experience, but the leadership commitment, the hub of the wheel, great visual, by the way. I love it. What happens, or tell me about a time, right? Leadership changes and the overall org doesn't have that philosophy or written process or whatever. And the new guy comes in and has to make his mark, and he just tears everything to shreds, all the improvements or whatever.
I was taking the hub out. That's what I was doing.
You know what I was saying.
Don't hit him. Yeah. Okay. Right. Leadership's always going to change. So what do you have to do? You got to get ownership at the process level, right? So if I have a nice well-owned, strong process that is generating great return, keeping people safe and so on at the process level. But let's be honest. The reality is some things are beyond us. We can only do the best we can with what we're given. So I create the image. We have, the plant managers in place and the technical manager and they're supporting, and then, that person retires and moves on, bring somebody. If they make a change, sometimes it's going to be stronger than anything we've done. All we can do, and we know this because as consultants, it's challenging because we're not part of that organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we can do is the best we can to help people do the right thing. So the elements of the wheel are trying to make it impossible to do the wrong thing, make it almost impossible to do the wrong thing. Why would you put people in harm's way? Why would you disappoint customer? But in the end, something may change. So the reality is, we used to weld things. So in the 90s, the only way we could sustain anything was we welded stuff on the factory line. But you guys know, in the South, they call it the red wrench. You guys know what that means, right?
Yeah.
So if I got to cut it off, I'm going to cut it off. Well, the thing is running. We're not jamming anymore. It used to jam 9 times a shift and it's now jamming 0, and we've welded it in place. Why would you do that? Well, the answer is we're all humans, and sometimes we think we have a better solution, or maybe we just aren't doing the right thing. Some things are beyond our ability to control. I don't know how to tell you that there's a perfect solution, because I think even Toyota has had setbacks, right? They've learned that maybe we expanded too quickly into other markets and we weren't able to create that same level of culture and standardization of approach, in the United States, in the UK, and so on. So they had to regroup and so on. But what they knew was it's important to do this well and right, because then people can rely on our products no matter where they are in the world. But if companies are unwilling to do that and they're just trying to make their quarterly numbers, and somebody's trying to look better than somebody, that culture is going to be hard to create sustainability from leader to leader to leader. Somebody's trying to show themselves, each other up. I don't think I can change that. I can just try to provide the image of what I think good looks like.
Yeah, I like how you put that, show each other up. I've worked with a couple of international manufacturers, which I won't name, obviously, but household name, that went through leadership transitions, and the culture was so Darwinian, it was offensive almost. And you'd have the new leader come in under this culture where I have to come in and make my mark quickly, like in the first 90 days.
Prove your worth, kind of thing.
Yeah, prove your worth, prove that I'm better than the guy I replaced, type of thing. And it brings in all of these elements that are antithetical to not just good business management, but continuous improvement. So it's a combination of the CAPE thing, like, really, do you understand systems and functions and objects? Like, how do you think that hiring a new general manager who has, 4 operations managers and 27 supervisors and 58 team leads and 650 hourly employees, how do you think changing that one guy is going to get you meaningfully different outcomes?
Right.
It's really ignorant to begin with. So you have the Superman cape thing going on. You have I'm going to reward you for business outcomes that are short-term and on paper, instead of what are you doing to the sustainability, the long-term profitability.
Right.
I think that Eli Goldratt got a little closer in the goal when he said, make money now and in the future. And for some people, that was a little bit of a light bulb, like, yeah, you know what, quarterly profit results, not great. Now, I actually disagree with him very strongly in that, because I don't think the goal is to make money now and in the future, right? I think that's not holistic. I don't think it's sustainable. honestly. But he changed the conversation a little bit to say, hey, you do have to think about the future too, right?
Mhm.
So if you're in the kind of organization that doesn't get it, I think I'm in the same boat as you. Like I need to have a conversation with the board of directors, because otherwise, I can't do much about this.
Yeah, and you can't test a lot for that fire in the belly, as he said earlier in the video.
Yes.
There's no test I can give you that says, am I actually going to have your commitment and your buy-in? That's got to come from you,
Right.
and there's no one else I could get that from.
So I'm at a place in my life, it's just me, me, my wife, my son's my IT department, and I got a dog, so not a lot, not a lot of overhead in my world. So there are times which I know that the leadership is not ready for the work that I do. And clearly, so there are indications. So if you've done 300 to 400 Kaizen events, or some people have done thousands, I haven't done thousands, I've done hundreds. You get a sense for, here's the scope of the problem we're trying to solve. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. I need a team of 6 to 8 people, and it's going to be 3.5 days, because that's how I get them from point A to point B in a sustainable way, right? That's how I'm going to do it. And if somebody says, well, I can only give you a team of 4 for 2 days, right? You just know that ain't going to work.
Right.
Good luck keeping your problems.
You're just not going to get to a point. And I've gotten in those conversations a number of times. So that's the first quick, easy example of the commitment ain't there. Well, yeah. I don't have the time to give you. I can't give you the resource. Well, problems just don't solve themselves.
Right.
They just don't do that. If they did, we'd all do that. That'd be awesome. Good. Why am I here?
If I'd like to hire you for some family consulting, because you mentioned you had a wife and also low overhead. So I'm really interested in how you accomplish that.
Just lucky, man. I'm just lucky. That's all it is. Just lucky. Very fortunate. Very fortunate. Yeah.
I love you, Rebecca.
So
see, now you guys, I wrote this book. I'm very lucky. I've been married for 30 years. She's a very tolerant woman.
Congratulations.
One neat thing that I was told was she never really knew what I did at work, because I always tried to just keep it there at work, unless something really ridiculous happened, something funny, right? Because, keep the stress of work at work. So when I wrote the book, I kind of did it on the cheap. Okay. I'm published through Amazon. They're my printer. Somebody recommended this person as editor and that and this kind of stuff. So I don't have a publisher or any of that. So I had some beta readers, some really nice folks that took the time to look and give me some really good feedback. Yikes. And then they said, you need to have somebody who you trust read it out loud so you can hear it. So during the pandemic, the sofa behind me, each night, maybe half a chapter, she'd read it out loud to me. And that was kind of cool, because it really gave her a better sense for what I did. And also there are a couple stories about her in the book. So they had darn well better be right.
Yeah.
That's not how I remember it, she said. And I said, oh, you're probably right. What really happened? Because, it's not like she's ever read the book again, but and did she find some redundancy? We must have eliminated 5,000 to 10,000 words. You said the same word 6 times in this one paragraph. Dang. Because you don't know, you're just typing.
Mm-hmm. You already know the answer in your brain, so you don't need to read it to justify to yourself the thought you're getting across. I'll share one of the sweetest moments in my life, if I'm allowed to, and that is how we initially met. And I've shared it once before, I'm going to share it again. But we worked at the same company in warehouses 3 miles apart from one another, and we had to briefly connect over some yard space or some logistics related nonsense, right? Well, because of that, me being a selfish SOB, connected with him over LinkedIn, because why wouldn't I? Everybody I interact with once at work, I'm going to do that. And he put out in his book, good. That's a great cut over. So he put out in his book, he was looking for beta readers for his book on LinkedIn. And I'm the one that reached out and said, yes, let me beta read your book. And because I run an operation right now, and his book, How to Win as an Operations Supervisor right now, I hit all of those heads. So I read it, loved it, gave him some feedback, very little of it positive, a lot of it critical. And he invited me over to do some stuff at his site. And sure enough, we'd eventually go to work together and fall in love. So
that's great.
That's what inspired me to write my book, in which my close friend that I got to read it out loud and rewrite and strike through the garbage was this man right here.
Yep.
That's great.
Man, there was a lot of garbage.
A lot of garbage.
Listen,
Well-
that's the thing. You have to be able to look. The best books are where you get rid of all the excess garbage.
Yep. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And it wasn't just work. The best advice I got. I tell a lot of stories. I think there are 36 individual stories trying to illustrate each component of the wheel, working, not working. And I wanted to show how to actually do each piece. Right. So I did, that was tough because I just was doing it. Right. But a lot of times I get, well, that story doesn't really match that component. It's like, oh, damn, but I love that story. So
Right.
I had to kind of like, okay, get rid of that one. You can't use that one. Use one that actually does clear benefits or does layered audits or does, leadership commitment or whatever. And there's stories about me almost getting fired because that always happened. I was an internal consultant for a while too, right? So you tell that plant manager that, this ain't working, and sometimes they don't like that so well. Right?
Yeah.
But they used to invite me back, but boy, oh boy, I'd be in the principal's office more times than not.
Yeah.
Because you just have to listen, you got to be true to yourself, right? You're trying to help people. And if this is keeping people from being helped, you gotta talk to somebody about it. Yeah.
Well, I actually lucked out when I went to college. I went for software engineering. This was like 2000, right? So I lucked out because if I had gone that route, that was pre-smartphone, and everything's smartphone now, right? So I would have kind of graduated just before the really valuable education was available. But I found out, like, my first semester, I cannot sit in this computer lab. Like, I'm physical. I like people. Yeah. This is not for me. So I didn't really know what to do. And then I missed a calculus class. So, you have these classes you have to take. And I was wrestling. I was on the wrestling team, and I was working like 40 hours a week, and I was taking 19 credit hours. So I was pretty busy, not sleeping much, and missed this class. And then I found out it's like every 2 years in the spring. But it's a prerequisite for the next class I have to take. So if I wanted to complete my degree in software engineering, it was going to take like 6 years. So, talking to the school counselor and stuff like that, what I found out was I can get a liberal arts degree with a certain number of credit hours because you don't have to know shit to get a liberal arts degree. So
apologies all to liberal arts people listening. Right? Nice.
What if you're a Republican? How do you get one of those?
We do not put politics into the
we don't
podcast.
Strike from the record.
So not to interrupt, but you say pre-smartphone. We had punch cards.
Oh, wow.
What is that?
Yeah. To submit punch. Yeah. What is that? Indeed. Right. So every programming step was on a card where you punched little holes. Right. So the big nightmare was if your pack of punch cards, if you tripped and fell and they fell on the ground, to sort them back in order.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Now there was one other cool thing you could do, because I was at Virginia Tech, not MIT. So there were these boxes of the little punchies, right? So if you computer dotted somebody's room, take the whole box and fill the room, it would be months before they cleaned out the computer dots because these little tiny things stuck to everything. So this tells you how old I am, right?
Yeah, I've got some Googling to do. That sounds
like a lot of fun. Well, I know what you're talking
penny
about.
locking also, right? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. My grandfather was actually an engineer. He worked for like United Technologies and Northrop Grumman, Westinghouse. So I don't even know if any of those companies are still around, but anyway, he wrote his PhD dissertation in longhand, like,
I believe it.
And then you had like some, whatever you call it, administrative assistant, like type it up for you, like that. That's what you had to do back then. So,
sure.
So he's telling me these stories about designing like solid fuel rocket boosters with a slide rule. And I'm like, the test pilots for that thing had balls the size of coconuts. Can you imagine something? So a bunch of dudes with slide rules figured out how to get me to the moon and back without killing me. Holy, oh my gosh, right?
We had to learn first year engineering. We had to learn about the slide rule and how it worked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why? Yeah, it's crazy. But that's how people did their thing. They had to do it some way, right?
Yep. I've been to Hurricane Harbor.
Yeah, it's a what?
I know all about the slide rules.
Not that kind of slide rule. It's a tool.
I love is I'll tell a joke he can't relate to at all, and it's always just a dead silent room, and it's my favorite thing on this universe.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Wheel of Sustainability, your focus is on Kaizen events that help companies to make change that is sustainable. So they'll see results right now and in the future, which of course I love because that is the philosophy of Zoom operational excellence. Win right now and in the future. Adam, it's hard to believe it's been an hour already. What a fantastic time. Thanks so much for coming on. How can folks connect with you?
Right. So I appreciate that. So I have my profile on LinkedIn. So find me at Adam Lawrence. I also have a company page on LinkedIn, Process Improvement Partners. Website is pi-partners.com. I have a YouTube channel with 29 subscribers.
Awesome.
So half of them may be just family members. So
at least one of them's me.
Well, that's 28 more than we have. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, and you can Google. I have a Google business page as well.
Great.
So all my contact details are in those various areas. Love talking about this stuff. We've been doing this over an hour. God help your audience. Maybe you'll edit it down so it won't be so long for their benefit, because I can do this all day. I'm doing a bunch of workshops, in the upcoming months on wheel sustainability and other things like that. So just love to have people reach out and chat. I've got a link to set up time, talk to me. I call it discovery call. We just chat about whatever you guys want to chat about.
Well, we found out we did this full time, at home for free with just each other on the porch with a cigar. So we thought, why not invite other people and do it on record for people to see?
Yeah.
So
Nice.
It is the genuine passion in life. So any closing thoughts you want to leave us with?
Well, I like your approach here. Think about a lot of these can get quite dry and formal. And so I'm glad that you guys have fun with it. I think that people should always have fun doing work that they love. We are very fortunate to be in an industry where we can help people. And thankfully, the help that we do doesn't put us in harm's way too often.
Thank you so much for coming on. We're really privileged to be able to connect with experienced guys like you. Proud of what you're doing in the community and for businesses around the U.S. For everybody out there in YouTube land. Bye, everybody.
Thanks again, guys.